The jungle was alive with sounds: chirping birds, rustling leaves, and the faint calls of distant animals. It was early in the morning, and sunlight barely pierced through the thick canopy above. The air was hot and heavy, filled with the earthy smell of the wild. Among the trees, an alien girl with glowing green skin moved cautiously through the dense undergrowth. Her long silver hair flowed behind her, almost blending with the jungle's shadows. Her large, shimmering eyes scanned her surroundings, alert to every movement. She was not from this world, and she knew the jungle was filled with dangers. She walked carefully, aware of the sharp thorns and hidden creatures that lurked beneath the leaves. But despite her caution, she felt a strange sense of calm. Her mission was simple: explore the jungle, learn its secrets, and return home. She had never imagined she would face the jungle's true dangers alone. Her alien race was stronger than most, but the wild creatures of this planet were different. Suddenly, the air around her grew still. The birds stopped chirping, and the rustling of the leaves faded. A low growl echoed through the trees, sending a chill down her spine. She froze, her eyes widening as she looked around. Something was watching her. Before she could react, the bushes to her right shook violently. Out of the thick undergrowth, a massive lion lunged at her, its powerful muscles propelling it forward. Its golden eyes glinted with hunger, and its sharp claws extended toward her. She barely had time to raise her arm to protect herself as the lion's claws raked across her body. Pain shot through her, and she cried out, stumbling back in shock. The lion's growl was deafening as it swiped at her again, its teeth bared. The alien girl struggled to maintain her balance, but the pain from the scratches on her arms and side made her feel weak. Blood oozed from the cuts, and her heart raced in fear. This creature was unlike anything she had faced before. She had expected threats, but not one like this. The jungle was testing her, and she wasn't sure if she could survive it. She backed away, trying to get some distance between herself and the lion. But the beast was relentless. It pounced, knocking her to the ground. She tried to push it off, but its weight was too much. Desperation filled her eyes as she gasped for air, the lion's hot breath on her neck. She was trapped, and there was no escape. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't want to give in. She was stronger than this, she had to be. She struggled. Again, kicking and punching, trying to shake the lion off. But it only dug its claws deeper into her, roaring in anger. Her vision blurred as the pain intensified. This was it. She had failed. Her time in the jungle had come to an end. Just as the lion raised its paw to strike again, a loud noise interrupted the chaos. A crash of branches snapped through the air, and the lion hesitated, turning toward the source of the noise. The alien girl gasped for breath, still pinned beneath the predator. Her heart beat faster, not from fear of the lion, but from the sudden hope that anyone might be coming to help. The bushes parted, and a human emerged from the shadows. He was tall, dressed in dark, rugged clothes, and his face was determined. His eyes locked onto the lion with unwavering focus, and his movements were calm, as if he had faced dangerous creatures before. The alien girl could barely comprehend what was happening, her vision fading in and out as the human raised a long branch and swung it forcefully at the lion. The lion snarled, startled by the human's sudden appearance. It growled low, but the human didn't hesitate. With a swift motion, he struck the lion's side with the branch, pushing it away from the alien girl. The lion backed off, its eyes flickering between the human and the injured girl. It growled one last time before turning and darting back into the jungle, vanishing into the shadows as quickly as it had come. The jungle fell silent once more. The only sound the alien girl's labored breathing and the rustling of leaves in the wind. The human stood over her, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. He didn't speak at first, just watched her closely as she struggled to sit up, wincing from the pain. "Are you all right?" the human finally asked, his voice calm but firm. She looked up at him, her large eyes filled with both fear and gratitude. She couldn't speak his language, but she nodded weakly. Her body ached, but she knew one thing for certain. She had just been saved. The human had come for her, and though she didn't fully understand why, she felt a strange sense of relief. The human extended his hand, offering help. She hesitated for a moment, unsure, but then took it. His grip was strong, and he pulled her up to her feet. She stumbled, feeling dizzy from the blood loss, but he steadied her. There was no turning back now. She was no longer alone in the jungle, but as she looked at the human, something changed in her. She didn't know who he was or why he had come to her rescue, but she knew one thing: she would never forget this moment. And somehow she knew their journey had only just begun. The alien girl, though bruised and bloodied, stood with the help of the human. Her legs wobbled as she took shaky steps, her body sore from the lion's vicious attack. The strange man, who had appeared out of nowhere to save her, stayed by her side, his strong hand gently guiding her through the thick jungle. She had never encountered a human before, and the moment was overwhelming. She glanced up at him, still unsure, her glowing eyes filled with confusion and awe. Who was he? Why had he risked his life for her? The human said nothing as they moved through the jungle, his eyes scanning the area, always on alert. His expression was serious, but there was a calm determination in his every action. The alien girl felt an unfamiliar sense of security in his presence, something she had never felt before in this wild and dangerous place. She was used to being strong, used to being independent, but today, in the heart of the jungle, she had learned a harsh lesson: no one was invincible. She had been careless, thinking she could easily survive this alien world. The lion had been a reminder that even she was vulnerable. She hadn't expected to feel this way, helpless. But here, with the human beside her, she felt like there was a chance. Maybe, just maybe, this human would help her find a way back home. But what did he want from her? Why did he help? Her mind raced with questions, but she kept quiet, unsure of how to ask him. She had never spoken to a human before, and she didn't even know their language. All she could do was follow him, trying to keep up with his brisk pace. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, the air became thick with humidity, the sounds of wildlife surrounding them. The alien girl's eyes darted from side to side, constantly searching for any other threats. The jungle was a dangerous place, filled with creatures she had only heard of in stories. But now, as she walked beside this human, she found herself relying on him. She had no idea where they were going or what would happen next, but she knew she had no choice but to trust him. The human noticed her unease. He slowed his pace, glancing at her over his shoulder. His brow furrowed in concern, and for the first time since their encounter, he spoke. "You're hurt," he said, his voice deep and calm, yet filled with a sense of urgency. "We need to stop and treat those wounds." The alien girl blinked, surprised by his words. How did he know she was hurt? Was it that obvious? She hadn't realized just how much the pain had taken a toll on her. The adrenaline had kept her going, but now that it was fading, the cuts and scratches from the lion's claws stung sharply. She placed her hand on her side, feeling the warm blood trickling down her skin. Her body felt weak, and her knees threatened to buckle beneath her. But before she could respond, the human motioned for her to follow him. They reached a small clearing with thick trees on all sides, offering some shelter from the dense jungle. The human kneeled down, digging through a small bag he carried. The alien girl watched him closely, unsure of what he was doing. His movements were swift and practiced, but she didn't understand. She had never seen such things before. The tools he carried were unlike anything from her world. After a moment, he pulled out a small medkit and looked back at her. "Sit down," he instructed, his tone gentle yet firm. He nodded toward the ground, his expression softening. "I'll clean your wounds." The alien girl hesitated. She wasn't used to letting anyone get so close, especially after the attack. But something about this human's presence calmed her, and she slowly lowered herself to the ground. He moved to kneel beside her, his eyes focused on the scratches and cuts along her arms and side. He carefully began cleaning the wounds with some sort of cloth, dabbing at the cuts to stop the bleeding. She winced slightly as the cloth touched her skin, the sting sharp, but she didn't pull away. Her eyes remained on the human, watching him as he worked. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly, noticing her tense posture. His voice was low and comforting, reassuring her that his actions were not a threat. "I just need to make sure you're all right." She nodded faintly, unable to form words. She wasn't sure if she trusted him completely yet, but at that moment, she felt like she had no other choice. The human had risked his life to save her from the lion, and now he was helping her heal. For some reason, she felt a connection to him, even though she didn't fully understand it. As the human continued to tend to her injuries, she watched him closely. He was strong, but gentle in his actions. His hands were steady, his movements precise. She could tell he had experience with this kind of thing. The alien girl couldn't help but feel a strange sense of gratitude. In her world, there was no one like him, no one who would go out of their way to help someone in need. Once the wounds were cleaned and bandaged, the human stood up, offering her a hand. She took it hesitantly, but this time she didn't hesitate. His grip was firm and supportive as he helped her to her feet. The alien girl felt a sense of relief wash over her. For the first time since the attack, she felt like she wasn't alone in this strange, dangerous world. She had a companion, someone who cared enough to help her. She didn't know what would happen next, or if she could fully trust him, but she knew one thing. This human was the only chance she had to survive the jungle. Together, they stood in the small clearing, the jungle around them alive with sounds of wildlife. The alien girl looked up at the human, her eyes filled with unspoken questions. She didn't know where they were headed or what lay ahead, but for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that she might make it out of this jungle alive. The jungle was quiet now, save for the distant calls of birds and the rustling of leaves in the wind. The human's presence, though reassuring, was still foreign to the alien girl. Her eyes flickered toward him, her mind racing with questions she couldn't ask. Why had he saved her? What did he want from her? Was he like the others, capable of betrayal, or was he different? The alien girl's body still ached from the lion's attack, but it wasn't just the physical pain that made her uneasy. It was the strange feeling of vulnerability, something she wasn't accustomed to. Her race was known for its strength and resilience, yet here, in this unfamiliar jungle, she had been reduced to something less. The human had saved her, but what if that act of kindness had a cost? What if he expected something in return? She pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders, her glowing green skin flickering in the dim light. Her alien features beautiful, yet unmistakably different from anything the human had seen, seemed to set her apart even more. The deep purple of her eyes shifted nervously as she avoided meeting the human's gaze. Her thoughts raced as she walked beside him, her steps unsure and hesitant. The human noticed her unease. He was quiet as they moved through the jungle, his eyes scanning their surroundings, alert for any dangers. He understood the tension between them, but didn't know how to ease it. He had been taught to be cautious, to never trust anyone easily, especially in a place like this. Yet, something about the alien girl made him feel a sense of duty, a need to protect her. He didn't know why. He only knew that he couldn't leave her alone in this dangerous place. But the trust between them was fragile, and he knew that one wrong move could shatter whatever connection they had started to build. "Are you all right?" he asked softly, trying to break the silence. His voice was calm, but there was a hint of concern in it. The alien girl looked at him, her large, glowing eyes filled with confusion and wariness. She didn't answer, but he could see the hesitation. In her posture, the way she stiffened whenever he got too close. She had been through so much already, and he couldn't blame her for not trusting him. After all, she was an alien, and he was human, two very different species thrown together by chance. In this jungle, the rules of survival were simple. Trust no one and fight for your life. He had helped her, yes, but that didn't mean she owed him anything. It didn't mean she could ever fully trust him. The alien girl finally spoke, her voice soft but filled with uncertainty. "Why did you save me?" she asked, her words rough and unfamiliar. Her accent was unlike anything he had ever heard. But he could understand her well enough. "What do you want from me?" The question hung in the air, and for a moment, the human didn't know how to answer. He had never thought about it that way. Why had he saved her? Was it because of some deeper connection, or was it simply a matter of survival? The jungle was a dangerous place, and it wasn't uncommon for people to help one another, at least when it suited them. "I didn't want to see you die," the human finally said, his voice steady but sincere. "I didn't do it for anything in return. I just couldn't leave you to die." She looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of doubt and curiosity. He could see the conflict within her. Part of her wanted to believe him, to trust him, but another part of her was afraid. She had seen the worst of the galaxy betrayal, cruelty, and deception, and she had learned to never trust anyone. It was the only way to survive. The human, sensing her doubt, stepped back slightly, giving her space. "I know you don't trust me," he said quietly. "And that's okay. I don't expect you to. But I'm not leaving you here alone, not after what happened. You're not alone in this." The alien girl's eyes flickered to the jungle around them. She could feel the weight of his words, but she wasn't ready to let her guard down. The jungle was full of dangers, and she knew that trusting someone too easily could get her killed. But for some reason, something about this human made her hesitate. Could he be trusted? Could he really be different from all the others who had betrayed her in the past? "I don't belong here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This world, it's not mine. I don't understand it. I don't understand you." The human nodded, understanding her feelings more than she realized. He knew how it felt to be lost, to be far from home, but there was one thing he had learned during his time on this planet. When you're lost, the only way to find your way is with help. No one could survive alone in the jungle, not even the strongest of warriors. "We're both far from home," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "But that doesn't mean we can't survive here together. You don't have to understand everything right now, but just know that I'm not going to hurt you." The alien girl looked at him, her glowing skin flickering in the dim light. She still didn't trust him fully, but something in his words made her feel a little less alone. The jungle around them seemed less threatening now, though the danger was still there. She had to make a choice: stay with this human and see where it led, or run and risk facing the jungle alone once more. Her heart pounded in her chest as she took a deep breath. The human was right. She couldn't do this alone. Maybe, just maybe, there was something more to this encounter than just survival. Maybe she could learn to trust again. With a hesitant nod, she finally spoke again, her voice softer than before. "All right, I'll stay." The human's face softened, and for the first time since their encounter, he smiled. It wasn't much, but it was enough. They had made their first step toward trust, and that was all they needed for now. Together, they would face whatever the jungle threw at them. They didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in a long while, the alien girl didn't feel quite as afraid. The jungle, once again, seemed to hold its breath. The wind had died down, leaving behind an almost eerie stillness. The distant sound of rustling leaves faded as the human and the alien girl continued walking side by side, their footsteps the only noise breaking the heavy silence. The human kept a watchful eye on the jungle around them, while the alien girl, Still feeling the sting of her wounds, moved cautiously. She glanced up at him. His face was calm, but she could see the tension in his eyes, the way his muscles tensed. With every noise, every shadow. It wasn't the usual wariness of someone unfamiliar with the wild. It was the alertness of someone who had been here before. Someone who knew how quickly danger could strike. "Are we far from the place you were headed?" The human asked, breaking the silence. The alien girl hesitated. Her mind was still tangled in confusion, uncertainty, and fear. "I don't know. I don't belong here." Her voice was soft, almost apologetic. The human nodded, understanding more than she realized. "We'll find a way out of this jungle, together." She didn't answer, her thoughts heavy. She wasn't sure whether to trust him yet. But for the first time since the attack, she felt something she hadn't in a long time hoped. Suddenly, the quiet jungle around them shifted. A sound, soft at first, then growing louder, echoed through the trees. A deep, low growl. The alien girl's heart skipped a beat, her body tensing. The human stopped in his tracks, his eyes narrowing, scanning the trees with an experienced, steady gaze. Without warning, the lion, its golden eyes gleaming with hunger, emerged from the dense foliage, its powerful legs propelling it forward with terrifying speed. It was bigger than before, its fur matted with the remnants of the struggle from earlier. The creature snarled as it locked eyes with the human and the alien girl. Its massive body crouched, ready to strike. The alien girl's heart pounded as the lion's growl rumbled through the air, a primal, guttural sound that sent a shiver down her spine. The memory of its claws raking across her skin flashed in her mind, and she instinctively took a step back, her breathing shallow. "Stay behind me," the human ordered, his voice sharp but calm. She froze for a moment, but his presence was strong, and his confidence was reassuring. She nodded, stepping back as he moved into a defensive stance. The jungle was silent again, save for the lion's low growl. This time, it was no longer just an animal attack, it was a battle for survival. The human gripped a long, sturdy branch in his hands, raising it like a weapon. His gaze remained fixed on the lion, calculating, waiting for the right moment to act. The alien girl could see the tension in his posture, his eyes focused, not on the lion's massive form, but on its movements, its intentions. She had never seen anyone so calm in the face of such danger. She had never known someone who would willingly stand against such a terrifying predator. The lion's eyes glinted with malice, as if it knew exactly what it was up against. It lunged forward, its jaws open wide, teeth gleaming in the dim light. The human reacted immediately, swinging the branch with all his strength. The lion dodged, its sleek body moving with unnatural speed, and it struck again, this time aiming for the human's throat. The alien girl watched in horror as the human ducked, narrowly avoiding the lion's deadly jaws. He wasn't just fighting for his life, he was fighting for hers as well. In that moment, something inside her stirred, something deeper than fear or uncertainty. She had never been this close to someone willing to put their life on the line for another, especially someone they barely knew. It was alien to her, but it was also comforting that the human swung again, striking the lion across the face with the branch. The creature howled, recoiling in pain, but it wasn't finished. With a roar, the lion lunged again, its claws outstretched, aiming for the human's chest. The alien girl, seeing the lion's attack, acted without thinking. She ran toward the lion, her glowing skin flickering with intensity as she grabbed a jagged rock from the ground and hurled it at the beast. The rock hit the lion in the side, startling it. The lion turned its massive head toward her, its eyes wide with fury. The human seized the moment. With a swift, powerful motion, he swung the branch once more, hitting the lion squarely on the skull. The beast staggered, dazed by the blow. It paused for a brief moment, as if considering its options. In that moment of hesitation, the human rushed forward, taking advantage of the opening. He dove at the lion, gripping the creature's thick mane and pulling it back just enough to expose its vulnerable neck. With a sharp twist, he managed to pin the lion to the ground, his strength pushing the creature's massive body into submission. The jungle was silent once more. The lion, now subdued, lay on the ground, its golden eyes filled with rage, but it made no move to attack again. The human slowly stepped back, panting, his chest heaving with exertion. His grip on the branch loosened, and he looked toward the alien girl. His face a mix of exhaustion and relief. The alien girl stood frozen in place, her heart still racing from the intensity of the battle. The human had done it, he had saved them both. She wasn't sure how to feel about it. A part of her still struggled to trust him completely, but there was no denying what had just happened. "You're safe," the human said, his voice low, but filled with reassurance. The alien girl nodded, though she couldn't quite find the words to express her gratitude. She had seen many battles in her life, but none quite like this. And none had left her feeling so vulnerable. The human didn't speak again, but he gave her a small, tired smile. The lion, though subdued, still lay in the grass, watching them with wary eyes. But for now, the immediate threat was over. They had survived together. The jungle around them was eerily quiet now, a stark contrast to the violent struggle they had just survived. The lion, once a fierce and deadly predator, lay motionless in the underbrush, its chest rising and falling slowly, defeated but not entirely vanquished. The human stood over it, breathing heavily, his chest heaving with exhaustion. He had fought hard, but his body was weary, his muscles sore from the relentless battle. He glanced at the alien girl, who stood a few feet away, her eyes still wide with disbelief. She had witnessed the raw power of the jungle, and yet, in the heat of the moment, she had seen something else, something that confused her, made her question everything she knew. The human's bravery, his willingness to risk his life for hers, had been unexpected. It wasn't something she had ever seen in her kind, not like this. In her world, survival came first. Trust came last. But here, in the depths of the jungle, the human had shown a different kind of strength when she wasn't sure how to understand. The alien girl stepped forward cautiously, her glowing skin reflecting the faint light that filtered through the jungle canopy. Her wounds still stung, but the pain had dulled in the wake of the battle. She glanced at the human, unsure of what to say. Her heart was still pounding, her thoughts scattered. What had just happened? And what now? Was this just an act of survival? Or had the human truly chosen to help her for something more? The human wiped his brow, his hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline rush. He turned to face her, his expression calm, but his eyes betraying a hint of concern. "You okay?" he asked softly, his voice steady despite the chaos that had just unfolded. She nodded slowly, her alien features flickering with uncertainty. "I'm fine." Her words were quiet, but there was something in the way she said them that seemed to convey more than just physical relief. She wasn't sure what to make of her feelings. A part of her wanted to thank him, but another part of her was too proud, too cautious to show any vulnerability. The human didn't press her for more, sensing the conflict in her eyes. Instead, he looked around, his gaze scanning the jungle once more. The danger wasn't completely over. The lion had been driven off, but there was always another threat waiting in the shadows. "We should keep moving," he said, his voice laced with determination. "We can't stay here for long." The alien girl hesitated, looking at the fallen predator and then back at him. She had never imagined she would be in a position where she would rely on a human to survive. She had always seen humans as weak, as inferior to her kind. But today, that perception had been shattered. The human had stood up to a lion, something no one had ever dared to do for her. I don't know where to go," she confessed her voice softer now, less guarded. The human turned to her, his eyes softening. "Neither do I," he admitted with a small smile. "But we'll figure it out together, one step at a time." The alien girl blinked in surprise. She had expected him to make some sort of boast, to show off his knowledge of the jungle. Instead, he was just as lost as she was. It made her feel strangely better, like maybe they weren't so different after all. They were both trying to survive. In a world that didn't make sense, she glanced down at her wounds again. The cuts weren't deep, but they were enough to leave her feeling vulnerable. Her body wasn't used to being so exposed. She was used to being the one in control, the one who was strong, invincible. But now in this jungle, she had been forced to rely on someone else. And it left her feeling unsteady. "You should rest," the human said gently. "I'll keep watch. You've been through a lot." For a moment, the alien girl thought about refusing, about pushing through the pain and continuing on. But she was exhausted, and her body ached more than she cared to admit. Her muscles felt like they had been pulled tight, and every step made her feel more drained than the last. Maybe it was time to trust him, just for a moment. She nodded slowly and moved to sit on a large, flat rock nearby, still keeping an eye on the human. She watched as he surveyed the area, his posture tense, ready for any sudden movements. He wasn't just protecting her from the lion. He was protecting her from everything this jungle had to throw at them. And for the first time since they had met, the alien girl felt something she had never felt before. Safety. The human didn't say anything as he kept watch. Instead, he focused on the sounds around him, the chirps of birds, the rustle of leaves, and the distant growls of unseen creatures. It was a strange comfort for him, being here with her in the jungle. Despite the dangers, he felt a sense of purpose, a sense of responsibility. The alien girl wasn't just a survivor. She was someone who had helped him see the world differently. She had reminded him that even in the darkest places, there could be light. As the alien girl sat silently, her thoughts drifting, she couldn't help but feel a strange pull towards this human. She had never experienced anything like this before. In her world, emotions were carefully controlled. But here, with this human, she felt something real, something raw. Maybe it was trust, or maybe it was something else entirely. She wasn't sure yet, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to find out. The jungle, with all its dangers and mysteries, suddenly didn't feel so overwhelming. With the human by her side, she knew they would face whatever came next. They were no longer strangers, they were partners. And together, they would survive. The jungle seemed quieter now, as though it too had taken a breath after the chaos of the lion attack. The distant sounds of wildlife were more subdued, the wind whispering softly through the trees. The alien girl and the human had traveled deeper into the wilderness, far from the clearing where they had fought the lion. The thick foliage provided them with some cover, but it also left them vulnerable to unseen dangers lurking in the shadows. As they walked side by side, the alien girl kept a careful distance from the human. Her mind was still swirling with questions. And though she had started to trust him, part of her still felt uncertain. She didn't fully understand why he had saved her, and the thought made her uncomfortable. The jungle was a place where survival was everything, and she had always relied on herself. Trusting anyone, especially someone as different from her as a human, felt dangerous. Yet, as she glanced at him, she realized that she was no longer alone. This human, with his strength and determination, was her only hope. The human, for his part, was aware of the tension between them. He had noticed her hesitation, the way she kept her distance, her eyes flickering between him and the jungle. But he didn't push her to speak. He understood the unspoken walls she had built around herself. They were both far from home, and the alien girl had been forced to rely on him in a way that she probably never had before. "I know you're still not sure about me," the human said after a long silence. He didn't look at her, his focus on the path ahead. "But we can't keep walking like this, not without talking." The alien girl's eyes flickered toward him, her glowing skin shimmering in the soft light. "What do you mean?" she asked, cautiously. Her voice was still guarded, though less so than before. The human stopped walking and turned to face her. His expression was serious, his brow furrowed in thought. "I mean that we need to trust each other if we're going to survive. I can't keep fighting off everything in this jungle alone. And I'm sure you don't want to be alone either." Her heart skipped a beat, but she didn't let it show. He was right. She didn't want to be alone, not anymore. But the idea of relying on someone else still felt strange. She had spent her life trusting no one but herself, and now she was supposed to trust a human, a species she had always thought of as weak and fragile. "I don't trust easily," the alien girl said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't understand what it's like to be alone in a place like this, surrounded by enemies." The human nodded, his gaze softening as he listened. "I get that," he said. "But I've been alone too. And I know what it's like to not have anyone to rely on. It's hard, and it makes you feel like you have to fight every battle on your own. But it doesn't have to be that way." The alien girl stayed silent, her eyes cast downward. She could feel the weight of his words, but the doubt in her heart didn't disappear. She didn't know what to say to him, didn't know how to explain her fear. Fear of trusting. Fear of getting close to someone who could, just like everyone else, let her down. "I'm not asking you to trust me overnight," the human continued. "I'm asking you to take one step at a time, and I'll do the same. If we're going to make it out of here, we need each other." She looked up at him, meeting his gaze for the first time since they had started their journey. His eyes were steady, full of conviction. He wasn't asking for anything more than a chance to prove that he could be trusted. And for the first time, the alien girl felt a flicker of hope deep inside her. Maybe, just maybe, she could let go of some of her fear. Maybe she didn't have to do this alone. "I can't promise anything," she said, her voice hesitant but sincere. "But I'll try." The human smiled, a small but genuine smile. "That's all I'm asking for." They both fell into silence, but this time it was a comfortable silence. The alien girl felt a shift inside her, a softening of the walls she had built around herself. The human hadn't pushed her for anything more than she was willing to give. It made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. They continued walking, their pace slower now, as if the air between them had changed. The alien girl glanced at the human, her thoughts drifting. She had always been a solitary creature, used to standing apart from others. But now she realized maybe it wasn't so bad to have someone by her side, to share the burden of survival. The jungle stretched ahead of them, an endless maze of trees, vines, and shadows. There was no telling what dangers lay ahead. But for the first time since they had met, the alien girl didn't feel as afraid. She knew the human would fight for her, just as he had before. And perhaps in some strange way, she would fight for him too. After a while, they came upon a small stream, its clear water sparkling in the soft light of the setting sun. The human knelt down to drink, his movements quick but efficient. The alien girl hesitated for a moment, then knelt beside him. She cupped her hands and took a sip of the cool water, letting the refreshing liquid settle in her parched throat. As they sat there, side by side, the jungle around them seemed less menacing. The evening air was cooler, the insects chorus, a soft hum in the background. For a fleeting moment, the alien girl allowed herself to relax. She glanced at the human, who was gazing at the water with a faraway look in his eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. She wasn't sure if he heard her, but it felt right to say it. The human looked at her, his expression softening. "You're welcome, but we're in this together. Don't forget that." The alien girl nodded, her heart lighter than it had been in days. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were beginning to understand each other. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now. The jungle stretched endlessly before them, its dense canopy above casting shadows that flickered with the movement of unseen creatures. The path was uncertain, the terrain unpredictable, but for the first time since their journey began, the alien girl felt a sense of clarity. She wasn't sure where they were headed, nor did she know what dangers lay in wait. But she knew one thing with certainty: she wasn't alone anymore. The human walked beside her, his steps steady, his attention split between the jungle's silent threats and the alien girl, who was still recovering from the wounds of their earlier encounter. His presence was a constant, grounding force. They were no longer strangers, bound only by necessity. Something deeper had begun to form between them, a bond forged in the fires of survival, but also tempered by trust, however fragile it still was. They had walked for hours, their pace slow and cautious. The alien girl's side still throbbed with pain, but the bleeding had stopped, and the bandages the human had applied earlier were holding. The exhaustion from the day's events weighed on her shoulders, but it was a different kind of tiredness. It wasn't the kind of fatigue that came from hopelessness. It was the kind that came from knowing they were still alive, still fighting. The human glanced over at her. "How are you holding up?" Her gaze flickered toward him. The concern in his voice was genuine, and though she had never been one to lean on others, she felt herself opening up. She had never been this vulnerable before, and it unsettled her. But there was no denying that the human had kept his promise to protect her. "I'm fine," she replied, though her voice lacked the usual confidence. "You don't have to hide it." "We've both been through a lot," the human said, his tone gentle but firm. "I know you're strong. But even the strongest need rest sometimes." She met his gaze, her eyes still filled with uncertainty, but also a flicker of understanding. Perhaps, in this moment, she could let her guard down. Just for a little while. She took a deep breath, then nodded. "I'm not used to relying on anyone," she said quietly. "But I can't do this alone." The human smiled slightly. "None of us can really, not in a place like this." The words settled in her chest, and she felt the weight of them. The jungle, the dangers, the unknown, it had all felt like a challenge she needed to face alone. But now, with the human at her side, the world didn't seem so overwhelming. Together, they could face it. Together, they might just survive. Their conversation was interrupted by the distant sound of a rustling noise. Both of them froze, their senses immediately alert. The alien girl's eyes scanned the jungle, her body tense. The human reached instinctively for the knife strapped to his belt, his expression serious. They had learned to trust their instincts. In this jungle, where danger could strike at any moment. "I heard something," the alien girl whispered, her voice barely audible. The human nodded, holding a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. They both moved cautiously, slipping between the thick underbrush and the towering trees. Every step was calculated, every sound amplified in the stillness. The jungle felt alive around them, as though it were holding its breath, watching, waiting. Rustling grew louder, closer. The alien girl's pulse quickened as they moved toward the sound. Her body was still healing, but her instincts had not dulled. She could feel the presence of something big. They were about to face whatever threat lay ahead. Suddenly, a massive figure emerged from the shadows, another creature. Its eyes glowing in the low light. It was a massive beast, its fur thick and dark, its claws glinting in the dim light. But this time, the alien girl was ready. She didn't hesitate. Without thinking, she moved into position, her body coiling. Like a spring, ready to strike, the human too was ready. With a fluid,